My name is Manish Jani. I'm the Deputy Director for the Legislative Council staff of the Colorado General Assembly. That's a mouthful. Simply put, I'm the CIO for the Colorado Legislature. That's my primary role. A quick overview of Colorado, state of Colorado and the legislature. The Colorado Legislature has 100 legislators, 65 House representatives of the House, and 35 senators. The state has a population of just under 6 million people, 5.75 million. Like most organizations and legislatures across the world, the Colorado Legislature had to pivot to the changing demands caused by the pandemic and its aftermath. There's probably no one was untouched by the pandemic, right? We had shortened or modified schedules for our legislative sessions for 2020 and 2021. We've never had that in the history of Colorado for well over 100 years. But we did meet our constitutional requirements for the meeting during the session. So how did this impact us? So, again, coming from the technology perspective, I'm going to speak to that more. So operational aspects, impacts of technology, and so on and so forth. Let me start by saying that our talk about our strategic areas of focus for IT in the legislature. We say services being accessible to all, right information to the right person at the right time, efficiency through automation, innovation, resilience, and quality. Now, except for resilience and quality that did not show up publicly as much, in fact, resilience did to some extent, we feel like the overall impact was for the better than for the worse. That was our take from it. Thankfully, we had already overspec. We had excess capacity on our network infrastructure, on our firewall, VPNs, and we had plenty of disaster recovery equipment to draw down to deploy laptops and so forth for desktop-only workforce. Literally moving from in the office to working from home really did not impact us technologically as much in terms of infrastructure. Our infrastructure was very well able to support that. What that did is told our leadership saying our investment in infrastructure was a good idea and we need to keep upgrading and augmenting our infrastructure. In fact, we have just ordered a large number of laptops, and we only did laptops, no desktops, and have a lot more spares than we've done in the past. There was an increased demand on our remote IT support staff for remote support, basically. So we intend to continue this trend so we don't have to do a lot more desk side visits in the future. So how are we taking advantages of some of the changes implemented by the pandemic, right? So because there's so much more of remote IT support, we have tools in place and people are more comfortable going in that direction. So we are providing more remote support than in-person support. Our IT teams were stretched to the limit, which was probably the case for every legislative body in the world because of the increased demand caused by the change on how business was conducted during the pandemic, right? For the first time, we were able to hire 9 additional session-only staff, IT staff. So during the legislative session, in our case, it runs from January to May, we were able to hire additional staff to support remote meetings and the support workload. I'm hoping we can continue this resource model in the future. That's one thing that I hope to kind of leverage ongoing. So before the pandemic, there were some initiatives in the areas of digital transformation and modernization that were already in the works that were accelerated. There were new initiatives created and some other initiatives we had to put on the back seat, back burner. So these all initiatives are in the areas of citizen engagement, building efficiencies and conveniences and automation for legislators and staff. I'd like to quickly differentiate between what I define differentiate between digital transformation and modernization initiatives. To me, digital transformation is related to technology, data, or automation initiatives for existing processes that do not have automation, or new business processes or new functions created using technology, while modernization is updating existing legacy applications with newer technology, and to some extent, some limited new process automation. So I just wanted to kind of differentiate. We use modernization for reducing technology debt and eliminating legacy technology, consolidating systems into standardized technology stacks. This helps us be quicker, more agile. It helps us retain staff, and it frankly improves user experience too, because the experience tends to be uniform. A few quick examples of transformation initiatives that we had in place. Right before the pandemic, we had started deploying Box, which is a content collaboration platform. If you've not heard of Box, you've probably heard of Dropbox. It's the same kind of technology, same family, different company product, right? So we are deploying that for legislators for collaboration and content sharing among themselves, with staff, with stakeholders, constituents, self-generated content throughout the life of them being a legislator, right? We plan to do that. Well, because of the pandemic, what happened is it's accelerated this deployment, and we were able to actually transform that, where traditional documents that were on paper form, created during the legislative process, like fiscal notes and amendments and committee reports, citizen testimony, were now being stored in Box and available real time to legislators. The adoption rate was a whole lot faster than we would have seen it outside of a pandemic. I'll quickly speak about electronic witness sign-up, testimony, and witness list. We already had a pilot project going on to allow witnesses. Colorado has a very strong witness testimony in committee hearings process. It truly believes in that, and the citizens of Colorado demand that. As a result, a lot of people testify during committee hearings. Typically, they would sign a paper sheet, and we're like, really, in this day and age, they shouldn't be signing up on paper. We already had a pilot going on for electronic sign-up to testify in committee. Well, because of the pandemic, it quickly moved into production for all committees, and we added additional functionality to it. So during the last 2 sessions, people could sign up to testify remotely. So they sign up online to testify remotely. They can sign up and submit their written testimony online. What this did was our committee members could access witness testimonials and witness lists in real time electronically instead of on paper, and only some of them having it versus not all. Just to give you an idea, we had over 11,000 witnesses sign up to testify remotely. We had over 4,000 written testimonials, and we meet for 120 calendar days. So if you think about it, our actual days of working is around 100 plus or so. So we had that many people sign up and testify. So that was, to us, a big success in that area. We have an application, in-house custom web application called iLegislate that is used by legislators to see their custom information, their own schedules, their bills. They can mark up their favorite bills and all of that. We had a pretty long-term roadmap on new features to be built out there. Well, because of the pandemic, now legislators relied a lot more on their electronic applications than on paper, and therefore we had to put a lot of our features on an expedited development schedule. So we had to deliver during the session in real time more features, such as making draft bill files available, making members able to ask for sponsorship electronically instead of verbally, in person. High reliance on electronic tools, I don't have to say that, but we have something called live proceedings that shows what's going on in the chamber, the schedule, actually what's happening in a list form. That was very popular. The website, our live and archived audio streaming, Twitter, WebEx, all of that took off. We also saw this as an opportunity to introduce digital signatures, which we had a hard time introducing in the organization. We still don't have it for bills and all, but we do have it for memos and leadership approvals and all of that. We did have a number of cybersecurity efforts going on, and one that I'll speak to specifically is multi-factor authentication. We were able to roll out multi-factor authentication very quickly in a 2-week time frame, which was unheard of because of the demand and the openness to change. A few other changes that we've seen is resources, in terms of resources of staffing and space. We were constrained by office space because of working from home, and there's a high level of acceptance on working from home. We don't need to have staff in the buildings at all. So that restriction has gone away. Now we can actually recruit from anywhere we want for good talent at a good at not too much of a cost to the organization, and have quality and quantity of staff. We also saw an increase in productivity, and our management policies were very supportive. So that resulted in a lower than normal attrition, which was rare. The reason I say this is it is critical to meet our long-term needs, and space and retention are two very, very important things. And we feel like we came out on the better, on the other side of the pandemic with this. I don't need to really explain to you what our existing constraints and limitations are for IT in most legislatures. Tradition and precedent can limit change, but what we are trying to do is wrap tradition and technology together. There's no reason why it has to be at the cost of one that the other has to happen. There is limited appetite for failure, right? Unlike in Silicon Valley, where you can fail fast, you fail multiple times before you succeed. In most governmental entities, organizations, you can't really fail. Failure is not really an option. So we have to keep working towards that. And we have to move from being perceived as a support services organization to a strategic partner, an agent for change, basically. That's something that we are constantly working on with our leadership. A couple of quick, I'm going to end with a few points on silver lining. I mean, the whole situation was extremely unfortunate, extremely. So even when I call this a silver lining, it may be too much to say to that, but what we saw that came out of this is there was an easier access for citizen and increased citizen engagement in the lawmaking process as compared to before, because now citizens were able to participate remotely from home, which was not the case before, even when the Capitol building itself was closed to the public. So it was such an irony where the building is closed, but you have a high level of participation. There was a much more high level of acceptance for automation and digitalization as compared to before. The needle moved in the direction of less paper model. I say less paper. I can never say paperless because I don't know if we'll ever go in that direction. But the idea is for efficiencies, if we reduce paper, it's always a good idea. There's a higher level of interest in accessibility. So that was a really good thing that came out of on the other side of this. Increased awareness and appreciation of technology services and the staff that provide it. So what this does is it gives us momentum, and I plan to keep using it to push for more digital initiatives in the future.